G'day folks, welcome to another episode of the Snowies Camping Show. As usual, joined by myself and Lauren. How are you today, Lauren?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm well, thank you. As we always mention, please subscribe because we love more people to watch our content on YouTube or via your favorite podcast aggregator or app, because I know you love that word, aggregator. And you can join in on the conversation at the Snowies Camping Show Facebook group where both myself and Lauren are there and a whole heap of other people who are part of the community, and where we can, we grab our guests to participate in the conversation as well, which is a good segue to today's episode because we've got an exciting guest on today that you've worked hard to get to join us.
Well, I just sent him an email and he eventually replied.
Okay, he can hear us, but it's
but I mean, like when you live the life he has, as if you reply to emails.
Yeah, because you've got more interesting things to do. But anyway, Our listeners are going, well, tell us who it is. But we've got with us Harry Fisher from Fire to Fork on the line. How are you, Harry?
Excellent. I'm covered in dog hair and I'm covered in a dog. So this is Fred, who will be annoying me throughout the episode, as you can see.
Yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen Harry's videos, Fred comes hand in hand with Harry in the videos.
Yeah, he's 40 kilos of dog cow. He's got a giant head.
What actually is he, Harry? I mean, obviously he's a bit of a mixed breed.
I think he's Border Collie Bull Arab.
Yeah, right.
But
okay.
I'm not really sure. So yeah, he was bred to hunt pigs and chase cattle, and he just mainly just looks like a cow and doesn't hunt anything. So
the giant fairy potato.
Yeah. So he mainly attacks food. So
all your leftovers, which is a lucky dog then, really, because we've seen a lot of your recipes and everything in your book that we'll talk about shortly. But if Harry's getting the leftovers, he's a very lucky dog.
Do you mean Fred?
Fred, sorry, Harry's. No, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe Fred's getting the main meal and Harry's getting the leftovers.
Never know.
Some people spoil the dogs like that. So, yeah, sorry, Fred's getting the leftovers. But Harry, anyway, on to you. But tell us a little bit about yourself and your origins and how you became, or how Fire to Fork came to be what it is today.
So my current job is nothing like where I started. So I did a commerce degree and I did a quadruple major. So I did investment finance, corporate finance, management, entrepreneurship, and innovation.
Wow, okay.
I wanted to be an investment banker and all this stuff. But I finished uni in this little thing called the GFC. So I actually went into insolvency because I thought, well, it's a pretty good place to learn how not to run a business and how to, and it was thriving at the time. So I was an insolvency accountant, which means, for people who don't know, insolvency is when you can't pay your debts. So we used to run sort of $5 million to $5 billion companies. We did big receiverships and administrations and stuff. It was so I did that for nearly 8 years.
Wow.
Then after that, while I was doing that, as most good stories start with, we were drinking beers by a campfire with a bloke who has a YouTube channel. His name's Ronnie Dahl. You might have heard of him.
Yes, don't worry. Yep.
And he said, mate, you were a 10-day trip. And he was like, you haven't cooked the same meal twice. And I was like, why would I do that? He was like, most people who go camping can cook like 5 things. I was doing like slow cooked pulled lamb and pulled pork and chicken on homemade rotisseries and all this stuff. And he was like, man, this is so cool. Like everyone I know just does tacos and nachos and wraps and
repeat.
And maybe a curry out of a packet. So he goes, I'd worked as a photographer and stuff at uni. And he goes, man, you should just start an Instagram page and focus on your cooking. I was like, I don't know, it sounds like a bit of hard work. And he was like, man, if it gets off the ground, get a few thousand followers, which I already had a few thousand on my like personal one, which was just for fun. And he was like, you get a few thousand followers, it's not hard to you can then start to sort of subsidize a bit of gear and stuff. Like the companies will be like, hey, we want to work with you, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, oh, look, someone says to you, you just do what you're already doing, take photos of the food and camping and travels and stuff and put it on a page, and you start to get, start to be able to work in the industry and get some discounted gear or free gear and work with cool companies. I was like, that actually sounds pretty appealing. So about 2 weeks later, I started Fire to Fork.
I love how you were worked in insolvency for 8 years, but then you were like, yeah, Instagram sounds too hard.
I know, right? But that was it. I didn't want to do anything too strenuous because I was working so hard.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to enjoy this. I said the whole time, I was like, this will never be my job. So like, what a great way to ruin camping for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, Ronnie, you're an idiot. Like, what have you done this for? I thought Ronnie's job was so stupid because I was like, oh, you don't enjoy camping anymore? Like, surely not. And he was like, no, it's great. It's great. It's great. And I was like, whatever. That's just because you used to be a steel fixer and you sticks,
yeah.
I was like, you're doing this.
Camping's awesome.
Don't have to stand out. Yeah. He's like, you don't have to, you just like it because you don't have to stand out in the sun anymore. And it wasn't the case at all, obviously. Like, I love this job. But yeah.
So you tried
so that's how it started.
So,
and then,
but also, I'm just going to interrupt you because you seem like the kind of guy who once you get on a stream, you just keep on going, right? So cooking, right? You're doing pulled pork, you're doing lambs, you're an insolvency banker. How does an insolvency banker who's interested in finance and all that sort of jazz be passionate about food, or have the skills and the ability and the creativity to just casually not repeat a meal on a 10-day camping trip?
Nowhere have you mentioned any sort of chef qualifications or anything so far?
Yeah, which I don't have. But my mum is a chef. So I grew up eating really well. I grew up camping and eating well. So the food side of things, that was always that, like, my mum wouldn't repeat a meal in a month.
Okay.
She's an incredible chef. And so I always ate really well. I always understood food. I was okay at cooking at home, but I was good at cooking in the bush, and I just really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed the challenge of not taking a gas burner. So I haven't carried a gas burner since I think it was actually that trip was the first time I took the gas cooker out of the car and just didn't put it back in, and that was 2016. 2017. Yeah, so 2017. I haven't carried a gas burner in 5 years. And the closest I get is a little BioLite. But yeah, that's actually no, there is one in the Delica now. That's only because I don't know the East Coast, and I know for a fact that I'm going to get stuck somewhere where I can't have a fire and go hungry if I don't carry one. So I bought like the cheapest one I could at Bunnings.
So you've got a Delica now.
Yeah, like one of those little lunchbox butane ones.
Stoves?
Those little lunchbox butane. Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
Everyone's got one of those, don't they?
I don't use it much anymore.
Yeah, but you got one?
I've got one.
Everyone's got one. Yeah.
So you've traded in your goals of an Aston Martin for a Delica now?
Pretty much, yeah. Although in the process, I built a Prado worth about as much as an Aston Martin. So.
I reckon it's an upgrade, but you know.
So when you were starting this, like you got out of insolvency, when you were starting Fire to Fork, were you just sort of hitting the ground running and seeing what was happening, or were you still getting sort of financial support through working in other areas? Because I think a lot of people might think, you know, I'd love to start a YouTube channel or be a content creator or whatever, but taking that step from being employed to not being employed and taking a gamble on your own creative project is massive.
Yeah, so I left insolvency and I went and I was general manager of a software company after that for a while. And so I did Fire to Fork for 2.5 years while working full time. And that was just Instagram. I didn't do, I did one YouTube video, which was with a bloke named Graham Cahill. So that went quite well. Yeah, right.
Wicked.
Bit of a kickstart. And he just came up to me at the show once and was like, hey man, do you want to go camping? And I was like, yes.
Are they the first three videos on your channel? Are they those first there's three of them, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the first trip I ever filmed. I was like, do you mind if I like record a bit? I didn't have any gear. Like all I had was my Sony camera, but I didn't even have a microphone. I'm like, Ronnie, can I borrow a microphone? I'm going camping with Graham. And he was like, yeah, sure. yeah, go for it. And I just whacked this microphone on, borrowed microphone on and hit record. And it was great. And then I was so inconsistent. I did like a video every 4 months kind of thing. And I did one with Ronnie, and I did one with a couple of other people, and they were called Fire to Talk. And I didn't really want to do cooking videos. And then finally I was like, all right, I better do one cooking video. I was kind of like getting my head around the filming aspect, and it took me so long to film this. I cooked a steak and cold oil chips. Still my most viewed video. It was my first ever cooking video, and it took me like 2 hours to film this thing with one camera back and forth. I had a boom mic instead of a lav, and it was just a nightmare. And I was like, bugger this is like unsustainable. And then all of a sudden I've got 600,000 views on it, and like I'm getting all this YouTube revenue, and I'm like, oh, this is good. Like,
I'll do another one.
I'm going to kill it. And I go up by I went up by like 7,000 subscribers in like 4 days. And I was like, yes, I'm the king of YouTube. That never happened.
That's awesome.
We were getting $3,000 revenue from it, and I was like, yes.
Wow,
that's pretty
awesome.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Like that's an incentive for sure.
Obviously, your content. There's probably a lot of people out there hoping to do the same thing, but obviously, your content hit a nerve, and I think it's because it's very relatable to people who are just the average camper who wants to cook without going over the top. And it's probably a good segue into your book, actually, because you've got a little bit in the front of your book here. This is your book, where you talk about. I don't know what you called it, like your sort of policies or your rules that you follow, which are really simple, using long life ingredients and that sort of thing to cook with. So I think it's because you can relate so much to just the average camper that you probably gained this following. That's my view on it.
So I'll answer your question before, Lauren. So financial support, yeah, absolutely. When I first quit my job, when I quit the general manager software company job, when I left that, I was leaving to go and find another corporate job, and I just basically had to like lean on Fire to Fork a little bit. I went, well, I'm not doing anything. I may as well just start filming lots of videos and start doing more content. And I was working for some like small companies doing photography work. So I did like a lot of photo shoots and things like that. But for the first year, I think like we turned over a few grand, kind of like, I think we made negative $30,000.
Okay.
Negative 30 or 40,000.
Coming from someone who worked in Insolvency.
Yeah, I know. So I'm like, off to a good start.
No red flags.
People don't realise that like it's actually quite expensive to do this. So I think I made 50,000 and lost 40,000.
Okay.
So it cost 90 to run the business for a year.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So my wife's a doctor, so I was really lucky to we had a bit of savings, and I had her. And we were living in the Kimberley.
Okay.
So we moved to Broome. So I basically just lent on her, and thankfully we were really lucky because the hospital gives us accommodation. So we rented out our house in Perth. We had free accommodation. So our costs were actually very low. Like we literally paying for food and drink and holidays, and this cow. And we didn't have any kids. So it wasn't that expensive to live, and it was really cheap for me to film because I could go down to Cable Beach, which was a 7-minute drive, and film something on the beach. And it's like Kimberley sunset, beautiful view, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, cool. I could finish filming an episode in an hour and a half, like leave the house, pack, shop, go down, film the episode, and be home in an hour and a half. It was incredible. Like, it was so low that the barrier to entry was like nothing. Whereas living in the city, you really need to drive a couple of hours away, go and get firewood, go and get, this and that. And then by the time you're out there, you're kind of like, well, I think obviously I want to sleep here because I'm not going to drive all the way out here, do sort of 7 hours of stuff. And like, well, I may as well roll out the swag. And then so you have to pack to camp and all that stuff. Whereas when I was in Kimberley, I didn't have any camping gear. I just put the awning out and film and then drive home. So it was just a completely different way of operating, and it made it cheap and easy to do so. But so that's how I did it. Is I leaned on my wife.
And it sounds like everything sort of, it was a really perfect opportunity. A couple of things aligned for you to be able to just get that initial spark and that initial momentum going, which is awesome.
Yeah, that was it. When we got the opportunity to move to Broome was when I stopped looking for a job.
Yeah, for sure.
Bit of a leap of faith still though. Like I guess you don't know what it's going to be, but congratulations.
Absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time when you hear stories of people who take those leaps of faith, they are rewarded.
Yeah, you got to back yourself. I assume you got to back yourself. Did you feel like you could back yourself, or were you going in thinking, I hope this is going to work?
I hoped it was going to work and sort of backed myself. I guess one of the key differences, I think, was my business background. So I knew how to talk to businesses. I knew how to when people speak to sponsors and stuff, they go, okay, what do you want me to say? You're like, that's never going to work. You saying, g'day guys, here's the new Stanley Cook set and blah, blah, blah. And this is the best thing on the market. And blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work. No. You turn up and you go, I got this wok 10 years ago from a little Asian supermarket. I can't kill the thing. These are wicked.
Yep.
People believe you. And because of my backing with Sam, my wife, I didn't have to sell out early, which was really good because I've kind of got this mentality with my business or this brand or page or whatever the hell you want to call it. There are two reasons to do this business. One is to have a heap of fun, and the other one is because you don't want to work in your current current job.
Yep.
Now, I didn't do this for fun. I did this because I wanted to make it a sustainable way of living. I wanted to be able to be home more and be a better dad and be a better husband and do all that kind of stuff. So I thought, well, I want to have a heap of fun thing. The way you do that is you jump in and you get a heap of money early so that you can go and do crazy stuff. And that means you do your NordVPN ads and you do your League of Legends ads and you do your all those quick, easy money grabs. And then you go and do kind of crazy stuff and fun stuff. And that's just a different business model. What that means is that you need to be extremely entertaining because people don't really believe you as much. Do you know what I mean? Like the guys who are like, the guys who are like rolling a car and then, have to stand there and do like a little infomercial.
Yep.
They need to be entertaining because people understand that they're an ad business. I really didn't want to do that. I wanted to be completely transparent and legitimate on camera and be someone that people could trust. And that meant that I had to suffer a lot more financially initially. But in the long term, it pays off because then you do get the right companies. I mean, I get 2 sponsor offers a day on average, right? Except like 4 a year.
Mm-hmm. So you're sort of maintaining integrity and authenticity in pretty much everything you do.
That's exactly it. And because then you get the right companies coming to you and going, hey, we love your stuff because we believe you because I'm telling the truth.
Yeah.
And you can do really good deals. So like Zippo is the perfect example. I'm sponsored by Zippo. And when they came to me, they were like, well, who the hell else are we going to go to? Who else lights fires? So it was perfect for me because I've used Zippos for 20 years. So like it was a no-brainer for me. I was like, great, trustworthy company. It fits perfectly with the brand. It's a great deal. And then you can do a sponsorship agreement that is like also a collaboration that is really impactful and for everyone. Like it's great for me. It's great for them. We can actually make a real difference. Whereas if I did 5 small sponsorships, and I'm having to rattle off brands and names and things all the time.
Yeah, you lose trust.
It's not going to work nearly as well. So I guess I'm kind of analytical from business perspective in that I don't want to do tons and tons and tons of little rats and mice things. I want to do big, impactful things on the channel, and that, that's just how I've always looked at it, and I think that's part of why it's worked, is because I don't look at the dollars. When someone goes, oh, I'll give you $5,000 or something to do this thing, I'm not going, oh, yes, I need that money straight away.
Building a good foundation. Yeah. So that,
and then obviously, and then you sell your own stuff and write a book, and like these help.
So the books.
And speaking of the book, sorry, Benji, I'm just going to cut you off there.
That's right.
So if anybody's listening to this and they're listening to this sort of in real time, as if not because we're recording live, but because you're listening to this before Father's Day, if you buy Harry's book from his website, he'll sign it for you.
I will.
With a personal message for your dad, or even for yourself. Just put your name down, pretend your dad's name's Lauren.
Yeah. I don't just tell me the name, but I keep getting really weird. So I did this last Father's Day, and I'd get like, can you please write, "Dear Daddy, we love you," from Kieran, and I'm like, and then you want me to sign it?
It's like
we love you, Daddy, Harry Fisher, and I'm like, no, that's weird.
That's odd. So I guess
I don't know who you are, but I'm not calling you Daddy.
You can't foresee that, but you're committed to having to sign it by that stage, aren't you?
I was just like, I was like, Kieran and Sally love you. Happy cooking. I was like,
I hope that's good enough.
Write a message for your dad from Harry, not from you.
Yeah.
I reckon your book would have to be one of the nicest looking campfire cookbooks
that
I've seen. It's really well, it's funny, like it seems polished, but I wouldn't say your videos or the way you operate is polished. It's very much so relatable to the average cook, but it's so well put together, really good images, and
thank you.
The ingredients that you outline in there are just in line with your rules of being able to just be accessible from a supermarket or a butcher. Nothing over the top, like anyone can cook the meals that are in there with some basic ingredients.
Yeah.
So,
are they your photos?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some of them in there make my mouth water, not going to lie.
95% mine. There are a handful, I think there are like 4 that aren't.
Yeah.
And that was just like last minute. That one's not a great one. It's from 4 years ago that I took with a crappy Nikon, and not that happy with it. And so the publisher is married to a National Geographic photographer. So
sweet. That's awesome.
He quickly. Yeah.
There's speaking of the publisher, just really quickly, it's Exploring Eden Media. They look like they've got a couple of good books on their published catalogue. Yeah. I was having a suss of them before. So anyway,
you haven't got the Elvis burger in there.
No, that'll be for number 2.
Yeah,
that's an interesting burger for anyone interested. Check out the Elvis burger video.
Won't ruin it. Just go to YouTube
just
and
go watch
surprise yourself.
I'm so tempted to call number 2 like Fire TWO Fork.
just to do people's heads in,
or TOO. Anyway, so what? Let's get into a bit of advice for people who want to get started in campfire cooking, because I know a lot of people, well, pretty much anyone camping would have a gas stove primarily, and a lot of people think that campfire cooking is challenging when it really isn't. You just got to take that leap of faith, I guess, into having a crack. So what would you recommend as sort of the basic kit items for people who want to start fire cooking?
The most important thing is some sort of a grill, like a stand. Do you know what I mean? So
it goes over the
fire, because then it turns from a fire to a barbecue.
Okay.
And it makes a lot more sense to people when there's just like, okay, there's a grill section, there's a hot plate, that kind of thing. Just go and get a cheap one, chuck it on the fire, and all of a sudden it kind of makes a lot more sense. And then just start with something you're really familiar with, like a fry pan or something like that, or a wok, that you can kind of pull in and out easily to control heat. Because if you're not very good at getting coals and things right, just start with that stuff. The other option is just the classic. Just start with jaffles.
Okay.
and check them a lot and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, you can do a lot with just a fry pan and a fry pan or a Jaffa or something like that, and just start really basic, and it's definitely very satisfying. But even better, the first meals to cook. Something like a pasta is really good because you can't burn water.
Yeah, so. Right. That's a good point. That's a good
unless
point.
It dries out completely.
Yeah, unless you forget about it and set your stove on fire like I did once.
Really?
In my house. We'll move on from that.
What about gear? Sorry.
No, you go.
I was going to say gear that so that's the basic gear. Like, you haven't mentioned camp oven though, but that's seems to be a common thing, but it's a little bit of practice.
Camp oven's level 2. Don't get me wrong, it's not hard. But if you want to, like, if it's literally your first time, put some snags in the fire because you don't care if you burn them.
Yeah.
You can watch them like a barbecue. It just feels like you're using a barbecue. It feels like using
a lot of people
would
would have used a barbecue at least once in their life. So viewing it in that transition is good.
Yeah.
And then if you want to go one step removed even further, you can literally just put snags in a fry pan and do them in the fry pan. It's very hard to burn them. They don't need to be cooked perfectly. It's just a good introduction to how the heat works, because you might be like, oh, this is going to be great, but it's going to be too hot. It's going to be too hot. It's going to be too hot. And you take half an hour to cook your snags. Who cares? Or it might actually be too hot and you get a couple of black bits on your snags. Who cares?
Still eat it.
It's just don't go down and get a $60 a kilo Scotch fillet the first time you do it, because you will probably cook it pretty poorly.
Yeah, that's good.
I think I saw you cooking an $80 steak on one of your videos recently, a Margaret River Wagyu steak or something. I don't think I could throw that on an open fire. I'd be
wasn't the outcome of that to not bother because they taste the same anyway if you cook it right? Wasn't that the general outcome?
That was another video. That was a cast iron. And I don't know. It could have been. I don't know. But you've got really nice looking steak anyway. But I'm scared I'd just stuff it up. So
I have cooked more steaks on fire than like most people have cooked steaks.
I've always done sausages and like cooked breakfast and things like that and stuff in the actual camp oven. But admittedly, it's never occurred to me to use the campfire like a barbecue.
Really?
Of all the cooking
you do on a campfire
cooking I do, apart from like doing bacon and eggs and stuff on a grill, I've never thought
So I've got images of you standing next to your campfire thinking, how am I going to cook these sausages now?
No, but for real, I just, crazy.
We've got a bunch of quick fire questions that I'm really pretty excited to get to at the end, but we've got a bunch of other questions.
Yeah, we probably have to keep moving because we'll talk for ages. I just want to also probably point out, sorry, I know I interrupt you all the time, but
you do.
You've got a gear list on your website as well, which I know is all the stuff that you use. And I remember you saying that you were going to put up with your recent trip to Queensland where you did it sort of more budget. You were going to do a budget-friendly reference list as well at some point.
That's exactly right, yeah. So which actually happens to have a few things from your store, which is
sweet.
Good to know.
Shameless nose plug there.
I mean, a lot of the questions we're asking here, you've actually got videos that cover a lot of it anyway. So for those who want to just, grab a cup of coffee and get lost for quite a long time, jump on the Fired Fork channel and you can watch Harry's actual setup in the back of various vehicles. But what about gear that you definitely just don't leave home without? And I feel like that's probably a really big question because your car's just set up as a kitchen all the time. But if there was, say, 3 items that you just shouldn't leave home without for camp cooking.
Well, as I said, the actual grill, I do not leave home without that because I use it for everything. I use it for the camp oven. I use it for, skillets and woks and whatever. I just cannot leave home without that. Okay. Welding gloves are really high up there.
Okay.
And they run a huge range that you can go from $8 to $80. In the Delica, I have an $8 pair, and in the Prado, I have an $80 pair. Yeah, right. They are not the same. Let me assure you, they are not the same. But they are very, very important and very useful. And the other one is, it is probably a camp oven. It's it's so versatile. I mean, it is what it says on the packet, an oven. You think about how often you use an oven at home, it can do all those things. You can bake a cake in it, you can bake a loaf of bread, you can do roast potatoes, you can, all kinds of things. It's so bloody versatile.
Just a mini segue, cast iron or spun steel?
Ooh.
Spun steel all the way.
Yeah, right. Okay.
There you go.
I haven't run a cast iron camp oven in 7 years. I've just been using the Southern Metal Spinners 10-inch that I bought from you guys actually how many years ago.
Why is that?
Even recently when I went, as I said, I built the Delica on the East Coast. So that's the budget build. I was looking at, firstly, I'll explain why spun steel. So spun steel is 75% lighter than cast iron. Mm-hmm. People go, it cooks all differently. It doesn't. It heats up faster and it cools down faster. Mm-hmm. But the actual temperature it gets to is identical between spun steel and cast iron. So if you've got roast potatoes in your camp oven, they heat up faster. So what? Like if the fact that it takes 1 minute to heat up, not 3 minutes, is not going to make any difference for your 45-minute cook. Mm-hmm. I would explain the difference as like putting a steak in a wok, which is spun steel, or putting a steak in a cast iron skillet. It's still going to cook the steak. Yeah, okay. Right? It's still going to, just the wok will heat up faster, and this cast iron will take longer to heat up. Yeah. Then they don't crack. So if you drop a cast iron pot, which does happen, they just crack in half. Spun steel dents, and you can just bang it back out.
Yeah, right. Okay.
That's really versatile. And I just love the design in Southern Metal Spinners because it's got the 4 handles.
So good, isn't it?
Yeah. It's really stable. It's got a great big lip. And anyone who's used a cheap cast iron camp oven knows you will get sand in the rim around the edge and crap, but it will fall in. You never get that with the Southern Metal Spinners. Yeah, okay. So I was looking at the price difference because I'm like, this is more of a premium product. So I'm looking at the price difference for the Delica, and I'm like, the second cheapest camp oven was like $52 or something. And then it was $60 for the spun steel. And I was like, why the hell would anyone buy the $52 one?
And you get a fry pan with it too, because the lid's a fry
Australian
pan as well.
and
it's Aussie made. Yeah. Lots of pros.
A lot of pros.
So many pros. I mean, they're made in South Australia. They're made where you guys are.
Totally.
Yeah. I've got a funny story about him if you want to hear it.
Go for it.
All right.
So I was...
As long as it doesn't offend him.
I don't know. So
we may cut this bit out.
We're about a year into doing Fire to Fork, and we're going to do a camp oven comparison because we're going to get spun steel and cast iron. And I called the guy and I was like, hey, look, we want to do this comparison, spun steel versus cast iron. Do you reckon you can send me a camp oven? And he was like, no. You're just trying to get free stuff and abuse me and blah, blah, blah. Full on abuse me. And I was like, whoa, okay, mate. Like, they're only $60. Like, I'm not asking you to send me a new car. Anyway, so, and it was going to be for Ronnie Dale's channel. So I was like, it's going to be on 250,000 subscribers and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I don't care, blah, blah, blah. About 5 years later, I do this video, spun steel versus cast iron, and why I only carry spun steel. Random call out of the blue. It's the same guy. He has no idea that it's me. Mate, I just wanted to call and say that was such a bloody good video. I really enjoyed that. Like, thank you so much for doing that. Is there anything I can send you? And he sent me like every single size cap.
Yeah, right. To be fair, these people probably get calls all the time looking for free stuff. Yeah, and it's just another one just seeking free things. We get it at Snowy's all the time. Someone will test the gear, review it, and
that's a crack up.
That's pretty funny.
That's a crack up. I love it.
It was just like, and he's a really nice guy. I think he was having a bad day that day, and it just at the time also camping YouTube wasn't as nearly as big as what it is now. Like now it's huge.
Massive now. Post COVID, it's booming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back then, like 20,000, there were like no other creators above 20,000. It was like Ronnie and then like no one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So
what are we've talked about your gear that you won't leave home without. What about your sort of essential pantry items like your condiments and spices? Is there any that you would take, like you just always have stocked, always have in your kit, apart from MSG, mate? What was with that? I don't know what to say.
MSG gets a bad rap and it's awesome.
It tastes awesome, but
It's not bad for you. It's a misconception. Back in the 70s, there was this study done by a guy who was allergic to MSG, and it was a really flawed study. And since then, there have been countless other studies that prove it's exactly the same as salt for you.
Yeah,
it's
right.
not
Okay.
actually bad.
Unfortunately, my partner and the bathroom could attest that it's bad for him. But I think it just depends on who you are as a person.
You have got an awesome list in your book here of like condiments and things that you recommend, which is an extensive list. But what are the basics?
I mean, the absolute basics, obviously, salt, pepper, olive oil, and I always carry a neutral oil. And a lot of them just carry olive oil. It's got a very low smoke point and it burns, and it's actually got too much flavour for some stuff, and you never want to use it in Asian cooking because it flavours the food too much. So I use like a rice bran oil or a peanut oil or something like that that's flavourless. Great for roast potatoes and things, contrary to popular belief. I always carry sriracha, and not just because it's chili. It's actually got a lot of garlic in it, and it adds this really nice extra flavour to different things, particularly for flavouring sauces. I always carry balsamic vinegar and red wine vinegar just to freshen things up a lot. And it's not actually this is not a pantry staple, but one that I found that I don't remember the last time I went on a trip without it, and that is red cabbage.
Yeah, right.
Cabbage.
Red cabbage, and it's so rogue, but red cabbage lasts 3 to 4 weeks in the fridge if you keep it wrapped in Glad wrap or put in Tupperware.
Cabbage is brilliant like that.
Yeah, lettuce sucks in the bush. It gets bruised, it goes off, it's bulky, it's all these things. If you want to freshen up your wraps, freshen up your snacks, freshen up all that kind of stuff, red cabbage or green cabbage, but red cabbage is my preferred.
It's a bit sweeter, isn't it? Like the green one is a bit bitter, but I reckon the red one's sweeter. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely right. And you can cook it down really nicely and all that kind of stuff. So red cabbage is right up there on the list.
Salt, pepper, oil, and red cabbage.
Neutral oil, red cabbage, sriracha. Sweet.
Sriracha,
So and the other one is soy sauce. And I always carry. I buy with my sugar. It sounds weird, but I buy the paper individual sachets.
Okay.
Because they're paper, so they're you can just chuck them in the fire afterwards. It's not an issue, but means I've always got a measurement. And if that box of things gets broken, which they inevitably do, nothing spills. It's always contained. There's because they're contained. It's just so useful. Great for recipes. Great for, and I don't use very much sugar.
Yeah.
You just have like 10 of them. They take up no room, and it's just a lot convenient than some sort of an extra Tupperware thingy that you've got banging around that you have to refill and all that stuff.
Yeah, nice. What about?
Those are the main ones.
What about seasonally? Do you change much from going from winter, when obviously you can have a campfire anywhere, to summer you can't have a campfire as much? So how does your kitchen kit change, or does it change from one season to another?
The biggest change for me, my pantry stays the same. Biggest change for me is fire pits. So that's where in summer, basically anywhere I go, I can't have a ground fire, or at least I shouldn't have a ground fire. So I like to carry a really tall fire pit. So I've got like the Red Rose one with the riser, which is really good. And then I've got the Osprey compact braai, which is like, again, really tall. And it's kind of like barbecue height because, yes, afterwards I'll drop it down and sit by it. But for just the cooking period, I love having it up high, and it's just, it's a lot safer as well, just being way off the ground with something underneath it. And I carry a really cheap welding blanket. It's a carbon welding blanket.
Yep.
That's light. And I put that on the floor because just to catch any little bits and pieces that drop. But that's kind of, they're the main ones. I have to travel. I have to do 900 k's return in summer to go and have a fire, which is quite annoying. So I haven't actually said this anywhere yet, but my summer series is going to come up, and it's going to be called Friday Beers. And I'm going to do backyard Campfire Cooking. So
Sweet.
the kind of stuff that you do for a barbecue with friends, because that's realistically what people are doing in summer.
Yeah.
When you kind of what's the point of watching some bloke who drives 900 k's return to this private property where he's can technically have a fire? Why not do what people are actually doing and help with that? So
nice.
The Backyard Beers series will have more ingredients. It won't be strictly according to these, because I have a dishwasher and I have multiple bowls and I can have more complex ingredients. I can use lettuce. You know?
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. That'd be really good. I'll look forward to that one.
I look forward to that.
Now, you've done a recent video, which is a question that we sort of get all the time, just even from customers and across different things. And obviously you get smashed with this question all the time, but setting up a cooking fire. So your video, for people who haven't seen it, go there to to watch it ultimately. But just a couple of questions on that. So what are your thoughts on sort of log sizes and wood types? Is there any real preference? Like, is it that complicated?
No, not really. But I guess the main thing is, look, your wood needs to be dry. There's no doubt about that. So that's easy to check. Crack it. Try and split it. Whatever. If it cracks open, it's dry. When you're collecting kindling, crack them. If they crack, they're good. If they bend, they're no good.
Okay.
But I do a kind of a weight test. If you go and pick up a piece of pine, it weighs nothing, and that's going to burn in 2 seconds, and it's probably not going to give you any coals. So you just want a heavy piece of wood. That's the main thing. Is heavy and dry, you're good. Not everyone has access to Jarrah like we do in WA. In fact, nowhere else does. But look, some sort of a hardwood. The wood you get from Bunnings and stuff is pretty garbage. It's pretty awful.
Rubbish.
It depends where you live as to whether or not you can collect it. I know that like Victoria and stuff is very difficult. So I guess I can't really speak to that. If you can, usually the place to get it is places like Facebook Marketplace. You can find people who have properly dried firewood and take pride in their firewood.
Yeah.
And they're the people to get it from, not from big companies. Big companies don't care. They're just like, yep, cool, just get the mill in, stuck them in a bag, get rid of them. Then they're not drying them for a year, and they're not doing all that kind of stuff. And if you live in a really wet environment, you've got to get kiln dried. But that's a kind of a different story. That's
different ball game.
Yeah, different. That's more like the UK.
So with someone did ask sort of, and already had this on our list, but like things like using charcoal, pellets, heat beads, et cetera, as an alternative. Do you have any thoughts other than they're garbage?
No. So I love charcoal, actually. Right. I almost always carry a small bag of charcoal. Now, I don't use heat beads. I actually use Heat Beads brand lump charcoal a lot of the time, which it's only because it's the cheapest.
Is that the one that looks like it looks like a compressed little domey disc thing, but it's black?
No. So those are briquettes.
Oh, okay,
so Heat Beads is a brand, and they do lump charcoal, which looks like random
actual
pieces
charcoal.
Of wood.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Because it's actually just dried wood.
Yeah.
It's carbonized wood. So lump charcoal is the random bits, which you've seen, and then the briquettes are that ground down and then bound together with a starch.
Right.
They smell a little bit different. They work fine. Some people like them because a lot of the old school camp cookbooks used to go, okay, you put 4 briquettes underneath the camp oven, and then you do 16 briquettes on top. So people liked that you could actually quantify that and get an exact heat.
Yep.
And that'll be a lovely cake, Dorothy. I don't do it like that. I'm more of a rough and ready sort of a cook. Now, the reason I love them is they're easy to light, but they're so good for a slow cook on the camp oven. Right. So if you get you can get sort of 4 big pieces, just throw them in the fire till they're starting to glow. They don't need to be fully glowing, half glowing. Yeah. Chuck them on top, and they'll burn for 2 hours instead of you constantly replacing coals. Just chuck a few a few bits of lump charcoal in there. I use them at four-wheel drive shows. I go through like bags and bags at four-wheel drive shows because I can't be constantly stoking it. I do use wood as well, but anything slow cooked, I'm like, cool, half a bag of that on there. Light it up, and it's good for. I don't need to check it for 2 or 3 hours. It's really,
like we
really
have a little flat pack D-cell battery rotating spit that we use lump charcoal for, and it's so good. Just like, you know, a couple of scoops of this charcoal, and you got hours and hours. Anyway, So I reckon we're sort of moving on to our rapid fire question round.
Can I ask one question before we do that? Because I was going to ask this before, but so I love meat and I love every recipe that's listed in this book, but my wife, it doesn't. She has vegetarian meals. So when I grab a cookbook, the first thing I do is jump in and look at what vegetarian options there are, right? And this is by no means discounting your book, but I like that in here you've got sides, quick meals, then you've got meat, and then the next chapter is chicken and then seafood, which are also meat, right? And then desserts. So obviously a very meat
just have
book.
Some sides. Just make Taryn a bunch of sides.
The sides are probably full of meat too, which I love, and a lot of people are going to love. But is vegetarian just something that hasn't been part of your past?
No, so it's my mother-in-law is basically vegan. I've got lots of friends who are vegan, vegetarian, and stuff. It's not that I'm anti it. It's just not how I eat. And I'm not good at it. I'm just not good at it.
Yeah.
I'm not good at meat alternatives when I can eat meat. So I kind of I feel like if I was doing it, it'd be forced. So because I just do eat meat, my whole family eats meat. It's not really, it's just not something I'm not something I'd feel comfortable giving good advice in.
For sure. It fits with the authenticity of what you do, you know, just do what you're good at, right?
Like the closest I get is like this one here, which is not salads. And that is a full guide to roasting vegetables.
Yeah, right.
So for sure. Okay, cool.
All right. I love that there's a bush tea recipe in there as well.
Yeah, me too.
Even
it's
a
one
shout
of my
out
faves.
to making it the traditional way by spinning the billy round to get the tea leaves to the bottom. So that's awesome.
Anyway. I had when I first put it on the internet, someone just went mental at me. They're like, "What are you doing? You're going to kill yourself. You're going to."
Oh my goodness, no.
And I'm like, no, sorry, mate.
So this rapid fire question round, Harry, it's one of the first times we've done this with a guest. We've got about 14 of these questions, and the sort of point of them really is rapid fire. So we're going to shoot them at you and you just come first thing on the top of your head, okay? And they're all pretty easy, I reckon.
We've never done it before, so nothing can go wrong.
Nothing can go wrong. Right. So Craig and Olivia from YouTube, what product or attachment would you recommend for steaming vegetables over a fire?
Steaming vegetables over a fire, I actually use a sieve, and I just put that on top of a pot or a billy.
Okay.
And then you put the meat on top of the sieve.
Nice and easy.
Serves two purposes. Yeah.
Are we going one for one here?
Go.
All right, next one. What does he use, or what does Harry use to lift camp ovens out of the heat? Is it a rag, glove, hat, or hooks?
I use very good quality welding gloves.
Cool.
How much money do you make just off of YouTube alone? If you didn't consider this is from Larry from YouTube, by the way, you don't consider merchandise and other streams of income, just monetization off YouTube. Would you guess?
Bugger all.
Bugger all. Yeah, right. Okay.
35 grand a year.
Okay.
Right.
And what have you've got like 70 plus K subscribers now?
Yeah. So 35, 40,000, something like that.
Okay.
Not enough. Certainly not enough to live on. That's for sure.
Next one. Go-to beer if Colonel IPS is not available.
I think they were trying to say Colonial IPA.
Colonial. Maybe we spelt it wrong in here. Colonial IPA.
Colonial IPA. And that's Phil B from YouTube.
Colonial IPA is my favourite beer. I call it Mother's Milk. If it's not a Colonial, I love Feral Hop Hog. It's just an absolute winner. Another WA brewery. And I also love Pirate Life from SA.
Oh, yeah.
Another one, Bolter IPX. I don't know if you've ever had that, but that's a very sessionable ale. So if you haven't, have a look for it. Silver can with it.
XPA?
XPA, sorry, yeah. Bolter XPA.
I love Bolter XPA. I think I've got one in my fridge now.
Good one. All right, Leanne from YouTube. What is your dream collab with another YouTuber or potentially anyone, and who would it be and why?
That's what I reckon. I would love to collaborate with
that would actually be.
What is it again? That's what I reckon.
That's what I reckon. Yeah, okay. I'm just imagining that how your aesthetics would like gel in a single. Oh man, if he's listening to this, please make it happen.
I've tried. I've reached out.
Right, everybody listening to this, spam That's What I Reckon for requesting a Fighter Fork collab.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Kyle, also from Facebook, wants to know the most fun collaboration you've had to date.
Without offending any of them.
Yeah.
Pick one.
No, that's fine. The most fun, it's actually a draw. So I did one recently with Pete from WA Camping Adventures. And that was really good fun. We did a burger competition. I had an absolute ball filming that.
Yeah, right.
When I was up north, I did a collaboration with a YouTube channel that had like 70 subscribers. They're called Salty Isolation. They don't even do YouTube anymore. That was some of the most fun fishing and camping I've ever had.
Awesome.
And the other one is I love collaborating with Ronnie just because we actually speak most days.
Okay.
And the videos we do are so much fun to make because we put like zero effort in. It just because we get on so well and we know each other so well.
Yeah,
we don't even have to say anything to like know what to do. You just literally hit record and stuff comes out of our faces, and it's
works.
Easiest thing to edit.
Awesome.
Easiest things to edit, easiest things to make is they're so much fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. We don't like a script, do we?
No, we don't. No, not at all. So Ryan from YouTube, peat or non-peated? I'm assuming
peated.
They're talking about whiskey.
Peated or non-peated? I'm assuming whiskey too, yeah.
Yeah, peated? Peated.
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
Does that mean non-peated is just out of the question?
No. I drink both. Okay. Yeah. I always drink a Scottish or an Irish whiskey. I'm not too into the rye whiskies and the American whiskies. So.
Okay. Have you got a favourite? Because I like whiskey too.
I don't know if it's a favourite, but it's a strong contender as Lagavulin 16. It's just a great whiskey. That's very peated. It smells like an ashtray.
Smooth.
All right, next one then. Alex on YouTube. Tents or swags if you had to choose one, and why?
Swags all day, every day. Because I like the simplicity of being able to roll everything up in one. For the family, absolutely a tent, but for just me and Fred, the swag's great. There's something about it. I just sleep better in a canvas bag.
Yeah, for sure. Jesse from YouTube, favorite ice cream flavor?
Ooh, that's a rogue one. Probably like really like salted caramel and things like that, or like a peanut brittle or something, something with a bit of salt and a bit of sweet.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I had a salt and caramel and macadamia nut ice cream once, and it was boss.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. That's the Maggie beer one, I think. They're really good.
Yes, yeah, that's the one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she also does a fig one. Oh, don't get me started. Okay, let's move on.
Maggie beer stuff's pretty good.
Yeah.
Some of my mates started calling me Maggie Beers. I was like, I cook and I drink beers. So yeah, that makes sense.
Makes total sense.
You've said it on YouTube now. It might stick, so careful. Yeah. Worst cooking disaster over the fire. That's from
Baumi, I reckon.
Baumi on YouTube.
Worst cooking disaster. I left it in the video and everything. It was recently doing beef stroganoff, and I bought the wrong kind of sherry, and I bought this really like gaggingly sweet sherry, and I put it in. It's supposed to be like a dry sherry or a dry white wine, and I made this thing, and I was so close to the end, and I was so sick. You couldn't see it. It took me 2 days to film this episode. I kept getting up and starting and being like, "G'day, guys." Like I was on death's door. I sounded like I had COVID plus. Like it was terrible. I had no energy. Anyway, so I nearly at the end of this thing, and I taste it, and I was like, this is disgusting. This is absolutely inedible. And I left the whole thing in, and I just went, but I do have a bottle of white wine in the car somewhere. So I grabbed that, and I remade the whole thing, and it was delicious in the end.
Wow.
But I think it was the fact that I was so unwell that made it that much worse.
I'm going to have to, I've missed that video. I'm going to have to go and find it.
Yeah, so, beef stroganoff. It's a good recipe.
Now, Annie asked a question, I think,
Similar.
at some stage. Hang on. No, my notes, forget about that.
Yep.
So have you ever had a disaster that's actually impacted your filming of an episode? So one that sort of meant you had to stop or change tack completely.
Yeah, I have. It made it to air. It was my first episode I filmed in Broome. And it was February, so it's extremely hot up there. And I went mud crabbing. It was a catch and cook mud crab recipe. And I went out with Fred. I went out in the boat for the day, and I gave him lots of water and stuff, but he basically overheated. And so I'd unhitched the boat. I was just about to light a fire, and Fred is just walking around. He's acting completely normal. And he does a wee, and it's black.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh, my God, I've killed my dog. Threw him in the car, cranked the aircon, hitched the boat back on, and I must have been doing like just silly speeds down this gravel road to get him to the vet, towing the boat and everything. It was bad. And got him to the vet, and he had like some sort of pancreatitis or something that it basically caused from overheating. And so I left it. As I say, I left it in, but that was a very, very different episode. I ended up. It was like I was so exhausted by the time I got back from this sort of emotional roller coaster. But I really wanted to eat this crab. So I'm like underneath our Airbnb in this like. It's so sweaty, and so the last thing I wanted to do was be next to a fire. I was like, oh, I wish I could eat this thing any other way. I was like, maybe I'll just bring it inside and boil it and just eat the thing and go to bed. But I was like, no, commit to the video. And you should see the state of me. I'm like bright red, sunburn.
Right.
I made mud crab linguine as well, which is not easy because you have to cook the crab properly and then pull all the meat out of everything.
Oh,
yeah. That's a pretty nuts thing to have pulled off with that other side. I would have packed it in, I reckon, if it was me.
Glad Fred was
and
right.
Radar was in that state. I would
Radar,
have been.
your dog.
Yeah, my dog's Radar. He accidentally ate some mushrooms once and was getting those on I know this is rapid fire and I'm taking over here, but on the Jungle Book when the cartoon, the Disney Jungle Book one where the snake comes down and his eyes go like all multicolored spirals to try and hypnotize. Radar was doing that in the back of the car and I was like, hold on. Anyway.
We're having the time of his life.
yeah, probably.
All right, next question. But for 4x4 Touring on YouTube, what meal would Harry cook for his last ever meal, and where would he choose to cook it?
Ooh, last ever meal. I mean, anyone who watches my channel will tell you that I have figured out a way to sneak steak and chips into about 900 videos, and I will continue to do so unapologetically. Really good steak and chips with probably like a steak au poivre sauce, so like a green peppercorn sauce. That's perfect for me. Or maybe a chimichurri, I don't know. And location-wise, probably there's a little campsite in the Pilbara called Running Waters, which I haven't filmed on my channel yet, but it's just stunning. Either that or it sounds bad, but there's a place called Harry's Hole.
Seems appropriate for your last meal.
Unfortunate.
And that's one of the most beautiful places.
Okay.
It's just a bad name.
So Roger from Facebook, he's asked a similar question. So if it's not steak and chips, do you have another go-to favourite camping meal? So, I mean, you don't repeat meals when you camp necessarily, but one that you like to do?
Yeah, spaghetti carbonara. It's so easy. It's 4 ingredients, and it's easy. It's filling it, and it's great leftovers. But that's the other thing. I'll do like even if it's just me in the car, I'll still do a whole packet of pasta so that I can have a big thing of leftover carbonara and eat it over the next couple of days out of the fridge. It tastes great cold. So yeah, that.
Very nice.
For sure.
All right, last one is from Sean on Facebook. Wants to know if portable blowers to get the coals going quickly, yay or nay?
Oh, 100% yes. Yeah, 100%. I've got 4, and I'm actually, I really want the workshop blowers are the best ones because they've got the most control. So whatever battery system you have, it's Ryobi, Makita, whatever, get the workshop blower, which is only about this big, and you can pull the end off, but they've got the most hand control. And if you mess around with a bit of PVC and fittings, they're really good for inflating mattresses.
Oh, right. Okay. So there you go, Benji. One item that does 2 things or more.
Yeah. Well, some of that goes against what we've talked about before and things you don't need camping. But now, I don't know, maybe the portable blower is a necessity.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I've thrown a question. Sorry,
but for me, I use my ARB twin more than anything because I've got a tank and a 9-meter hose reel.
Yeah.
So I just use because it's all plumbed in, it's connected to the lithium battery. I don't care about power consumption. And once the 4-liter tank is full, it lasts ages. So that's the main one I use because it's just one less thing, and then it's a real multi-purpose. You can use it for cleaning, you can use it for tires, and you can use it for the fire.
Yeah.
I threw in one of my own questions here because you're always in bare feet in the videos, standing next to the fire in the heat. Are your feet actually made of cast iron as well?
Yeah, they're actually asbestos.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah. I burned myself plenty. There's a burn on my...
that's a nasty one.
Burn there. I've got a nice little one on one of my fingers. There's a nice one there.
Wow.
But my feet don't get burnt very often. So, my boots actually get more burnt than my feet.
Yeah, I've had to send a couple to the shoe repairers to re-glue the soles back on because they've been too close to the fire.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all our questions.
That's all our questions, Harry. This has literally been so much fun.
Yeah.
It's great.
I've actually, really loved hearing more about, your origin story and stuff as well. So that was really interesting.
So you've got a website, you've got Instagram, you've got your Fire to Fork YouTube channel, and you've also got another YouTube channel that you use for your non-cooking sort of stuff as well, don't you? Which is
it's pretty abandoned though, right? It's a bit of an abandoned channel.
I haven't had time to film anything. The thing is, I did Channel 7. I've got a show on Channel 7, which it has been just so hectic. So I've got this big list of things. I'm like, oh, cool, I've got a free day. I'm going to go film something for that.
Do you actually have a show on Channel 7? Because I don't have a TV. I've got a TV that we use for streaming, but I don't watch actual TV.
Well, I have a TV, but I didn't know he had a show on Channel 7. So what's the show?
Is it an actual thing, or are you recording and it's supposed to be a secret?
No, it's out. It's going to be on 7, mate. So it just aired in Perth for the last 12 episodes, and it's going to be airing on 7 Mate in the next couple of weeks for the rest of Australia. I think it's 5:30 on a Saturday, so it was between the footy and the news,
nice one.
which is a good time slot.
Yeah,
a lot of my friends who don't watch free-to-air TV have accidentally watched it at the pub.
Yeah.
Because you go to the pub and watch the footy and the footy ends and it's like, Harry Fisher. And they're like, what? I know that guy.
Nice one.
That's awesome.
The pub like, dude,
you're on the
telly. You're on the telly.
Well, congratulations. Obviously,
that's awesome.
From 2017, I think it is. I think around 2017 you started the idea of Fire to Fork to now. You've done really well. So congratulations, and it's great content.
Thanks.
And for anyone who hasn't seen it, definitely tune into the YouTube channel or
absolutely
wherever the television now. Lots of places you can view Harry. So
the show on 7 is called the Full Driving Adventure Show, and it's with me and Ronnie Dahl and Mark LeCraft from the Eagles.
Okay.
And Lockie Gilbert, who was The Bachelor.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Wow.
Look at that,
Lockie,
Harry. You're on Bachelor level now. That's your fame status, Bachelor level.
Shot to fame. Is that 5 years?
That's crazy.
Well,
awesome.
This has been great fun. Thanks so much for your time, Harry. We've really appreciated it.
Oh, thank you. It's great to chat.
All right.
That's another. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that
Harry. Good chat.
was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so looking forward to this one going to air. But that's it for this episode. Any questions, jump in on the Snowy's Camping Show Facebook group. Ask us questions. If you've got questions
chuck
for
them
Harry,
on YouTube as well. I'm sure Harry might be able to pick them up.
Yeah, the questions on there. If Harry doesn't get on it, we'll see if we can get onto him to get some responses for you. But you can subscribe there on YouTube and your favorite podcast app, wherever you listen in. And that's it for today. But thanks for joining us, and we'll see you
next
on
week.
the next episode.
Catch you later.
See you later.